God calls us to awaken in Him. How will He find us when He comes?
Awake and ready.
And when He asks us to dedicate our lives even more perfectly, how will He find us?
Awake and ready.
Let's begin with the prayer. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
friend, beloved God,
friends, beloved God,
great Masters,
great Masters,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
beloved Guru,
beloved Guru,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
humbly and joyfully we bow at Thy feet.
humbly and joyfully bow at Thy feet.
O Divine Mother,
O Divine Mother,
help us to deepen our quest for Thee.
help us to deepen our quest for Thee.
Teach us to be selfless
Teach us to be selfless
in our love and service to all.
in our love and service to all.
Purify our hearts
Purify our hearts,
that we may perceive Thy ever-shining presence there.
that we may perceive Thy ever-shining presence there.
Break down this wall of delusion
Break down this wall of delusion
that separates us from Thee
that separates us from Thee,
and bring us home.
and bring us home.
Om.
Om.
Peace. Please take your seats.
Father, now that I wander with Thee, flowers and fields are alive with Thy joy. All that I own to Thee I've given. Now I sing in Thy love, I am Father, now that I dance in Thy name, birds and animals share in my song. Oh, my soul goes home, I never let join in music to set hearts aflame.
Continue to meditate with your gaze focused at the point between the eyebrows. Imagine looking at a distant mountain top. Sun rising. Visualize your heart like a 1,000-petaled rose opening up receive divine love in the form of radiant light coming into your body through the spiritual life. Feel every cell of your body nourished with love, peace, joy, wisdom. Feel energy rising in the spine. As I read from Affirmations for Self-Healing by Swami Ananda. Today's topic is self-control. If a lake is made to feed into many streams, it will soon become drained. Similarly, if a person's heart energies are fed into countless streamlets of desires, he becomes drained, eventually of even the power to feel. Sated with pleasure, he grows dry, blasé, and indifferent to even the greatest wonders. The sensualist imagines that by giving up his pleasures, he would renounce happiness. But in fact, the more one restrains his senses and learns to live in the peace of the inner self, the more he finds himself glowing with happiness, good health, and a radiant sense of freedom and well-being. Now we will do the affirmations, first with a loud and clear voice, with deep concentration at the point between the eyebrows, and then slowly with a lower voice, and then to whisper and silence, internalizing the words, the meaning, the vibrations, and let the intention of the affirmation melt into your consciousness and fill you up. So please repeat after me loudly. I am strong in myself.
I am strong in myself.
I am complete in myself.
I am complete in myself.
The joy and perfection of the universe
The joy and perfection of the universe
await discovery within my inner being.
await discovery within my inner being.
Now a bit softer. I am strong in myself.
I am strong in myself.
I am complete in myself.
I am complete in myself.
The joy and perfection of the universe
The joy and perfection of the universe
await discovery within my inner being.
awaits discovery within my inner being.
Now in a whisper. I am strong in myself.
I am strong in myself.
I am complete in myself.
I am complete in myself.
The joy and perfection of the universe
The joy and perfection of the universe
await discovery within my inner being.
awaits discovery within my inner being.
Now with full concentration and focus at the point between the eyebrows, feel your energy rising, and in a whisper, in silence, sorry. I am strong in myself. I am complete in myself. The joy and perfection of the universe await discovery within my inner being. I am strong in myself. I am complete in myself. The joy and perfection of the universe await discovery within my inner being. Now pray silently. I crave nothing that the world can give me, Lord. O infinite perfection, make me one with Thee. I crave nothing that the world can give me, Lord. O infinite perfection, make me one with Thee. Continue to stay centered, feel the calmness, feel the joy in you. Feel your heart opening up to receive the divine love. as I read from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Ananda. This is week 12, and the topic is We Are Children of the Light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. It is common for people to perceive themselves according to their present realities. A person in ill health says, I am ill. Few say, I am well, it is my body that is suffering. People in a low income bracket say, I am poor. Only the unusual person will say, though outwardly I live in poverty, inwardly I am wealthy. Thus, when it comes to moral and spiritual development, people commonly identify themselves with their weaknesses and their mistakes. They consider it almost a sign of humility to say, I am a sinner. Though in effect what that means is that they identify themselves with their sinfulness, not with the soul's power to transcend all limitations in God. The great masters, including Jesus Christ, have always emphasized the divine potential of mankind. To encourage us, they address us as children of light, not of darkness. The Bible in the Gospel of St. John chapter 3 makes the point that our true home is not the mud of this earth, but the light of heaven. No man hath ascended up to heaven, it tells us, but him that came down from heaven. This passage continues, even so the Son of Man who is in heaven, emphasizing that Jesus, though he lived on earth, is perceived by the eye of wisdom as conscious, even in human form, of his true reality in heavenly spheres. The way to know God is to live in godly consciousness and not to bewail our imperfection and our distance from God. Jesus said, Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And the Bhagavad Gita states, Seekers of union with the Lord find him dwelling in their own hearts, but those who lacking in wisdom seek him with impure motives cannot perceive him, however much they struggle to do so. If you want to know God, Paramahansa Yogananda said, live in the thought that you have him already. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to be with all of you. Reading from Whispers of Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. Demand for control of the unruly senses. O Spirit, let me not feed my insatiable sense cravings with further wrong deeds. Teach me to discipline myself, that I think always in terms of my true happiness. If my senses become unruly, teach them to govern my will, not to cooperate with them and their desires, to feed them only wholesome acts. As electricity can either illuminate or destroy a building, so human power can either glorify or devastate a life. Let me learn, then, to govern wisely the finite forces thou hast entrusted to me, that each of them with this twofold potency be directed only toward the good. Let the greedy flames of all my desires consume their own dross, not by self-indulgence, but by self-offering into the white heat of thy wisdom. Teach me, O Spirit, to cooperate with thy will, to perform every duty harmoniously, and to sing the one little song thou hast given me to sing, until all my unruly senses learn to join happily in full harmony with thy cosmic plan. Let the rivulets of all my sense cravings be transmuted into one mighty river of soul craving. And O Spirit, spare not thy rod of discipline, if ever I stray again toward the senses and away from my true path of craving for thee. And make me, this is the second prayer, make me feel that everything is joy. I am the foam of happiness, spumed out of the sea of thy joy. I am the ocean life bounding with the billows of joy. Endless eddies of my laughter spread through all hearts. When the time comes to depart, I will retire to wakeful sleep on the bosom of thy infinite joy. A ripple ever dancing with billows of all joy. I am a bubble of joy, struggling to burst and unite with the ocean of joy. I feel thy joy in all things. Make me a lighthouse of joy also, guiding storm-tossed vessels of life to safety on the shores of thy joy. Let every vine of my activity bear large grape clusters of thy joy. Let me drink the divine wine, pressed from the grapes of all life's little joys. We are the children of light. And so we have heard that many, many times, I'm sure, that we come from God. We are made in the image of God. We are children of light. But how many of us truly believe that? Because as one of Master's disciples had said, Master, you say that I can have God if I only thought so, right? I'm just a thought away from having God. But do I really? Can that really happen? And Master said, yes. And then he pestered a little bit more and he said, really? Can I really have God just because I think so, I do? And Master said, well, you just answered your own question. The moment we doubt, that's that ego. Ego is the identification of the soul with this body. And it's difficult. God has created such a wonderful movie, and we are engrossed in that movie. We are deeply engrossed in the movie. We are laughing, we are crying, we are shouting out with laughter, and we are weeping our tears the next moment and going up and down, and this roller coaster of life. And we think this is all real, right? And then Master tells us, well, when you sleep, and that's when I really started to think about it. Really, that's true. When we sleep, what happens to our body? Our sense that we are the body. We are no more feeling that body anymore, right? Think about it in your dreams. We are bodiless. We begin to become free of that sense of that we are the body. And Master said, so when you're dreaming, you become little gods. But when you wake up, you should still remain gods. And so that's what we have to do. Even when we wake up, and so the senses are telling us, screaming at us, that this is my hand and that's it. And the point beyond that is not me anymore. And all of these people here, these souls I'm not connected, I'm separate. The senses are telling all of this and limiting us, limiting our reality. The reality is much, much more than that. And so what do? God has given us the senses. Well, God has also given us deeper tools. And so the masters come back again and again to tell us, like we all know, right? The masters don't come to tell us how great they are. They already know who they are. They are self-realized. They come to tell us who we are, potentially who we are. And literally we are like sleeping lions in the garb of the sheep. Little did we know, one saint had once said, if only you know how much God loved you, who you really are, and how much God loved you, we would die of joy. We would die of joy. Something to meditate on. How much could that love be that we would die of joy? So our ego, that is always our problem, right? The ego always shoots its head up at every inopportune moment. As things are all going well, you're in feeling the joy of God, and then this little ego will crop up and says, oh, I've become such a deep meditator. Or I'm doing so well. Or, the negative aspect of that, somebody says something to you and the ego crops up and says, how dare they? How unfair, poor me. And the ego cries out again and again and becomes mad and angry in the streets of LA and in our jobs. And every time we are disconnected from that light and joy, which is our true self, the visualization I have is, so we all have, we don't have to go looking for it anywhere, the truth that we are all seeking, the pure joy and the unceasing joy and unconditional love that we are all seeking, that's right here. We are carrying it in our hearts. And this is the seat of the superconsciousness. This is the altar of God in our body. We have been given that. And we are carrying it with us. And like the musk deer, I'm sure you've heard many times that story. The musk deer, the deer from where we get the perfume musk, carries the musk in its belly and goes crazy during monsoon season, because that's when that musk comes out really strong. And it goes crazy with the smell, looking for where is the smell coming from. And it goes all around the forest and sometimes even drops off cliffs looking for that smell. And all the time it was carrying it there. And we're just like that musk deer. And so where do we start? We know all of this, but we have to experience it, right? It's something to just say it, read it, but something else to actually experience it. And Master has come to teach us that yes, you can experience God right here, right now. In fact, the moment has come to know God. It's time to know God. How do we do that? We cry out, right? Who are we in reality, as the Festival of Light says? Who are we in reality? As we begin to meditate, as Narayan had written a really lovely blog the other week, as we still our bodies, the body sense cease to exist. And then we begin to feel that freedom. Yes, still living in gravitational field, having that force pulling us down. I sometimes wonder how lovely, how wonderful it would be to be actually without the body, the lightness, the freedom of it, as Master had said. We jump from here and we say, oh, there's no more burden of body. There's nothing to feed anymore. It's so beautiful. And in that astral form, we just jump from here because there's no sense of space and time anymore. And that's all here in this worldly domain. But in deep meditation, we begin to taste that. And even more importantly, the one thing that we cannot, without which we cannot take a step, divine love. We have to develop love for God. So let's take for a moment, right? Each one of us, if you take a history of each one of us here, we have our whole list of great things, good things, bad things, and terrible things, right? And we all have our list. We are storybooks. We've been created by God. And then we have been let go. Like God created us and said, okay, my dear, go out and create a story for yourself. And we, given the free will, what a wonderful plot, right? We just went here and there in the wilderness. God knows where we've traveled. And we've created those stories. We have gained positive and negative energies, and they are stored in our astral bodies. And those are our tendencies now. And so when we listen to a beautiful divine music and our heart craves, just cries out, that's because we have experienced it in the past. And when sometimes negative also comes our way and we feel attraction to that negativity, that's also because we have experienced it in the past. And after having played all these games, now we're tired. And I'm speaking for all of you in this room. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We're tired. Don't want to play that game anymore. I want out. How do I get out? So I think the one question we are all asking is, how do how can I be happy? How can I be peaceful? No matter what is happening around me, good, bad, how can I remain unaffected? How can I truly experience that I am that child of light? And that's when Master comes and says, you can experience that. These are some of the tools. Do this, still your body, still your mind, learn how to meditate. That's like learning the alphabet. You're going to get ready to read now. And once you learn to meditate, oh, please come up. You have so many seats here. So as we begin to meditate and we begin to lose that such a strong hold the senses have on us in deep meditation, we begin to feel maybe a little flicker of joy that comes up, a little touch of that love that fills our hearts and makes us feel, I'm not alone, I'm connected, somebody's out there. Divine Mother begins to become a reality as we experiment with her, as we play with her more and more. She's out there looking out for us. She's a reality more than this book, more than my body, right? But we don't realize that. And as we do that, we also begin to realize, as Master has says, love. We have to be able to love. Remember those big laundry lists of goods and bads that we have? And we would all like to get rid of the bad and move more towards the good. But he says, don't worry about it. You're going to have all your bads and goods. Don't worry too much about it. Just love God. Just love God. Develop your love for God. And so then we say, okay, but how do I love God? What is God? And yes, I know, like that story from India. It's a Vedanta story. It's a beautiful story about Brahma. It's that Brahma is everywhere, but we can't feel it. We don't know. We haven't experienced Brahma. It's like the little fishes in the ocean, and the teacher fish is saying, little fishes, there's water all around you. And the little fishes say, water? What is that? They don't know what water is, because they have been in it. And the same thing with us. We are immersed in Brahma. But what is Brahma? What is God? How do I experience God? And so from there, little by little, the grace of God, yes. So we are said, this is a huge question now, right? How do I love God, which is formless, doesn't come to me in front of me? So when my heart yearns out, I just pray out loud, and in my heart I'm saying, I really want to know you, Brahma. I want to know you, Divine Mother. Come to me. Then she sends a form. And that form could be any form, anything. And to me, it's my Guru. And to many of us, it's our Guru. And that human form gives us a point, a reference, where we can focus all our heart's love. Otherwise, it's difficult to love the infinite. I'm sure you agree with me. So we begin to focus our heart's love, our heart's devotion at that point. And then we are given this huge encouragement. It's said that the Guru is 25%. He will work 25% to progress you. He's like that raft of light that you're going to hold on to, and he's going to pull you out of delusion. 50% is God's grace. Now look at the math of it. 50% is God's grace. 25% is your Guru's presence in your life. And 25% is our self-effort. So we are in it for about a quarter of the game, right? But the important part is nothing can move if that 25% is not being activated. Remember how we have to say, I seek. I have to say, I seek. We have to say, I want you. I have to make that effort. If that effort is not there, nothing is happening. Ramakrishna said a beautiful picture. It's like this boat, and there is the breeze that will blow sometimes, and that's the grace of God. The breeze may not blow all the time. But what is our duty? To lift our sail up all the time, because we don't know when that grace is going to come. And if our sail is up and we are ready, then whenever that breeze blows, we'll be lifted up, we'll be uplifted. So So yes, with the grace of God, with the grace of the Guru, but with 100% of our self-effort. And that self-effort begins to look like, I am disciplined, I'm making sure I'm making that God contact twice a day, just like we have been taught to. We are doing everything in our power. We are doing the techniques, but going deeper with it. So now comes that devotion. We have to do it with devotion. Paramahansa Yogananda used to say, all the techniques that I have taught, including Kriya Yoga and devotion. Kriya Yoga done with devotion. It's like mathematics. It will work. It will work. And again, I know a lot of you have seen it work, not only in yourselves, but in people around you. Because it's hard to see changes in ourselves, but we do notice changes in people around us. And it just works. It works like magic. And so as we develop this love, let's talk a little bit, how does this love look like? Because love, we all know, the center of love is our heart, right? This is the Anahata. And the energy is very strange here, because this energy sometimes wants to go out. And in that exuberance, that heart's energy can begin to develop desires. It's like tentacles. So that love, which we think is love, is basically desires. And so we don't want that energy to go out. We want to keep it in and raise it up at this point and offer it here. The other aspect of that energy, as it goes down, it becomes enmeshed in that same, so air is the element of the heart. Now, for a moment, think about that. Air is very freeing, isn't it? It's very light. That's a quality of the heart's energy. And in that air quality, which ideally should be universal, the love should be spreading out, expansive and universal. But in the limited form, as the energy is going down, that same love now begins to look like individual love. So I love only you, and I don't like you, and my likes and my dislikes. So now it's all individualized. It's not that free anymore. So that's energy going down, and we have to reverse the direction up. And as the energy moves up, that's when it's leading us to freedom. We feel freer, expansive. We feel like our consciousness is expanding, and the whole world is our family, and we want to hug some of those meditations, right? As you come out of the meditation, you feel like you could just hug the world right now and feel that love flowing. That's because the energy has risen up here. And so with the help of that practice, that love, because divine love, what is it really? A story of, I forget her name. She was a Sufi saint, I think Ruby, or I could be wrong. Anyways, so this Sufi saint, beautiful story of her. She was old, she had reached, she was very close to leaving her body, and she was suffering. And so 3 of her disciples came along to console her. And one of them said, who is a lover of God, who is willing to suffer for God? Who is a lover of God, who's willing to suffer for God? And she listened to that and said, no, that's smacking of egotism. And then another disciple said, who is a lover of God, who is happy to suffer for God? And she says, no, it still smacks of egotism. And then they said, Mother, why don't you say in your own words? And she says, that is a lover of God who forgets their suffering in their love for God. As they behold their beloved, in the contemplation of the beloved, they forget suffering. That is what we are aspiring. That we forget everything that's happening to us. And that is the secret. You know, we look at some people, some of you have gone to the village, or some of you were born in the village, and we come across these people, these great to-be saints, soon to be saints, that feels like nothing touches them anymore. And you look at their lives, they have more than their share of their problems. Because I used to think, oh, living in the village must be so wonderful, because it doesn't have any trouble. It's like almost like heaven-like aura around it. It is, not because of its absence of problem, but because of the consciousness of the people. The problems are still there, Because there will be people, and I'll come and talk about that. Our biggest problem in our life are people, isn't it? Staying with people, working with people, being with people. And God has given us people because we need them. We need to rough out those sharp edges of ego. And so, yeah, it's hard to be grateful for some people in our lives, right? But think about it. Why are they there? To smoothen out those rough edges. And they are perfect gifts of Divine Mother. And if we can say that. And then while I was thinking about this, I also thought, well, you know, there are people who will trample all over you. And you would be thinking, okay, I'm not going to let my ego come out and, you know, respond back. So what do? Do you get killed by people then? In your effort to reduce your ego? And then spirituality is practical. So Ramakrishna said, you're going to hiss. You know? So the story goes like this. So there was this great devotee, happened to be a serpent, but was a great devotee. And his guru, and he was, you know, taking lessons from his guru, and just like all of us, trying to get rid of the ego. And so the guru said, you're not going to bite anymore, no more bites, okay? And you're just going to get rid of all that ego and just, you know, be really mellow and in peace with yourself and enjoy. And he did all of that, but unfortunately, as happens with the world, a group of little kids realized this snake doesn't bite. So, okay, let's hurl some stones at it. And they started to literally beat the poor thing to death. So the next time the guru came along, he saw the disciple is not thriving at all. What happened to you? Well, Guruji, you said not to bite, so I stopped biting, and look what they have done to me. They have almost killed me. And the guru said, I told you not to bite. I never asked you not to hiss. So hiss, but don't bite. Now what does that mean? So, as I'm sure some of us are parents here, you know, as parents, as teachers, as model to little kids, we've all had to hiss. We have to. So we do that, but with nothing in our hearts. That's a difficult proposition, isn't it? So we are hissing, but not with vengeance. We are hissing with love. It takes a while to reach the point, but that is our goal. And so balancing the spirituality, and it's practical, and it's all the time. Spirituality is the most practical thing that can happen to us. And it will always, and how do I know I'm moving in the right direction? Well, I'll always have an increased sense of happiness, joy, love in my heart. If I feel like expanding, I'm expanding, and I can feel, almost literally feel people. Yep, that's a good direction. And if the opposite happens, I am feeling more myself and feeling constricted, like a cage has been put on my heart, it's going in the reverse direction. That's a good way to tell if we are doing, because it's a very relative world. Something that's good for me may not be good for you. So we all have to experience it, try it out, and make it our own. We have to make it our own. And so as this devotion increases, like Master says, you don't have to worry about your little troubles. They will all wipe away. As the love comes and as ecstasy comes after, you don't have to worry about fixing little things. They will all get fixed. So if we can just focus on developing devotion, loving God, that's the best thing to do. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is meditation, which develops devotion, and service. So you can easily see where this could go, right? I could say, okay, I just want to meditate. Master, I just want to meditate. And Master is going to say, no, you're not. You're not going to always meditate. You have to act. And in fact, if I remember, he told Swami Kriyananda, teaching, writing, something else, I forget probably, and meditation. And he says it's not a coincidence that he put meditation at the last. So it has to be a balance. It's very easy for the ego to say, I don't want any of this world. I just want to meditate. Leave me alone. I'm going to go to the cave and meditate. Not that easy, God says. You have to be in the world. In fact, Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, if you cannot be inactive, because are you truly inactive? And he says, you have reached the right to be inactive in this world only when you are becoming breathless. You're not taking anything from the world, so you don't have anything to give out. How many of us can say that we can go breathless? So that is that test. In other words, to bring it to our terms here, as long as I am breathing and I'm taking of this world, it's my duty to give back to the world. I have to live in this world, and yes, I have to face the world, and I will take little dips into my meditation. That's important. That's the battery that keeps us going. So we have to experience the divine in meditation, but bring it out into the actual light of the day, as they say. So we have to test it out. And it actually, if you think about it, I felt like we could aspire our lives to be a constant stream of meditation and service. Everything can be meditation, and everything can be service, right? Even in meditation, we could be serving. We're not meditating to get something from God. We're meditating to serve God the best that we can, to make Him happy, to make Master happy. And in whatever outward actions we have to take, that could be meditative too. So it's a constant balance of meditation, keeping connection with God, inward and outward, and serving. And it doesn't matter how great of a meditator we are. It doesn't matter how much Kriya we do every day. It does not matter. What matters is that helping you improve your heart quality? Is that helping us become deeper lovers of God? Then we're doing the right thing. Let that be the only yardstick. Are we able to love God more? And whatever that may be. Outwardly it doesn't, so Sister Gyanamata said such a beautiful thing. It doesn't matter what happens to us. It doesn't matter what happens to us. What matters is what those things make us, how they change us. So things could be happening in our lives, good, bad. Are they making us the way we want to go? Are they changing us? When something bad happens, am I able to look at it and say, okay, what do I have to learn? Am I able to do that? So I'll end with a story from India. Again, some of you probably have heard this. So Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, sends out Narada, his devotee. Narada does this pretty often for Vishnu. He would go out and go all around the world and come back and tell Vishnu what is going on in the world. So Vishnu says, Narada, go and take a look at all my devotees and see, bring me the word back, how they're all doing. So Narada goes around the world and looks at all these different devotees. He comes to this great sage who has given up his entire life meditating, tapasya. He's doing all of it. And so when he sees Narada, Narada says, okay, my dear friend, how are you doing? I bring news from the Lord. And he says, how are you doing? And he says, go ask your Lord, when is he going to come? I've been waiting for a long time. When is he going to come? And so Narada says, of course, I will go ask him. And then as he was about to return to the heavens, he noticed there's another devotee there. He's drunk. And he's trying to create his own fence and not really making it because he's so drunk. But he's singing the name of the Lord. He's singing and he seems to be joyful for some really strange reason. And so Narada went to check him out. And then he sees Narada and he's a joyful fellow. He says, hello Narada, how are you? And how is our Lord? When is he going to come to me? Please ask the Lord, when is he going to come to me? So Narada goes back with all these news from the devotees and goes and tells to ask Narayan. So he tells him about the sage. And Narayan says, tell him that the Lord will come as soon as he's done passing elephants to the eye of the needle. He'll be done as soon as he finishes passing elephants to the eye of the needle. And tell the devotees this and come back and tell me what they say. And so Narada goes to the sage, and the sage says, okay, so what has the Lord said? When is he going to come? And Narada repeats himself, and the sage gets so angry. He says, what? Who has heard of such a ludicrous thing of passing elephants through the eye of the needle? Okay, enough of all this that I've been doing. I am going to leave this life of renunciation. I'm going to go back to the world. It has been a complete waste of my life. And Narada was taken aback. And anyways, so and then as he's coming back, he sees the other fellow, and the other fellow asks the same question, and he repeats himself. And now this guy, this joyful drunk, he is overcome with joy. He just starts dancing when he hears Narada say, and Narada is asking him, what are you so happy about? And he says, didn't you hear? He's going to come. That's all he heard. The Lord is going to come. And he's the Lord of the universe. What is passing elephants? He can do all impossible things. And in his devotion, as he danced, the Lord also came and joined, and they all three danced together. So this is the moral of the story. With devotion, only with devotion. With blind devotion. It's okay to be blind in devotion. And just giving ourselves up, because otherwise how will we surrender our ego? Think about it. That's the only way this ego, which is such a big problem, can be replaced only by love of God. Because ego is the love of the little self. The love of the little self can be replaced only by another love. The love of the big self. And so as we allow that love to flow through us, that little self shrinks and goes away. They say those two can't be in the same heart. When the ego steps in, God steps out. And so if we allow God to step in, the ego will step out.